Hello, and a big welcome to this introduction into Nutrigenomics. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Sandrine Olmy. I'm a registered nutritional therapist, but more importantly, I'm also the mum of a little girl who was recently diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and we suspect that she is also demand avoidant, PDA. And I specialize in digestive health, hormone health, and more recently, I started digging into anxiety. And I've now become a nutrigenomic specialist, and I am helping primarily mums of anxious children. So I help the whole family, but with a big focus on how to reduce anxiety in the home. So my approach when it comes to nutrition is pretty relaxed and really understanding and caring because I am in that situation myself, so I can fully empathize with your situation. And my big goal really is to help you understand how we can, support you to bring calm back into your home. All right, and hopefully, nutrigenomics might be this missing piece for you. So what we're going to talk about today is the connection between what we eat and our behavior, or our children's behavior. And we'll talk about nutrigenomics, of course, and why it matters for your child and maybe yourself as well. And also why and also the science behind anxiety and brain. So basically looking at the actual reports, okay? And I said that I was going to share my daughter's report, so you've got a real case to look at, and I will share some of the strategies that we've applied. Some are working all the time, some are working some of the time, and that's the key thing, is to have a little bit of a toolbox so that when something happens, you are able to choose something that may help, okay? Unfortunately, emotions evolve and are influenced by things that, we can't always predict. And that's the difficulty of what we've got to work with. But once you understand a little bit more how the body works, you can then put in place strategies that hopefully are going to help bring calm into your home. So, yes, the food that we eat actually impacts how we feel and how we behave. There is a very, very strong link, and science is there. It's showing us how that works. So let's go through that a little bit, okay? Just a tiny bit of science to start with. So when we're looking at brain health and behavior and emotions, we're looking at neurotransmitters. Now, what are they? They are chemical messengers that basically attach to receptors. You can see on this little drawing the receptors. So they need to attach those receptors in order to then communicate messages all around the body. And when it comes to neurotransmitters, we're thinking serotonin, our happy hormone, dopamine, the hormone that gets us going, motivated and rewarded and all of this, and GABA, the relaxing neurotransmitter. And you can see here in blue all these different things that the neurotransmitters are involved in. So sleep, signaling, obviously sending signals all around the body, memory, cognition, the learning side of things, pain, whether we feel it or not, and also emotions. And obviously, this is super, super important when we come to looking after children with special needs. You know, emotions. We want to help our children as much as possible, and understanding how we produce neurotransmitters, whether they're attached to those receptors, and whether we also get rid of the excess is going to be incredibly important and will make such a difference to your child and how they feel. So when we talk specifically about ADHD, we are looking at these neurotransmitters. So we're looking at dopamine, we are looking at norepinephrine, which is called a noradrenaline in the UK, and also serotonin. And we are basically trying to work out the balance between all of these neurotransmitters. And it's not easy, I'll be completely honest here. It is, we are still trying to understand how these neurotransmitters work together, but there's more and more research, and nutrigenomics can, like I said, show you how we actually produce these in the first place, whether we are eating all these lovely foods that contain the nutrients needed to make neurotransmitters, and whether the receptors are working and whether we're releasing the excess. Okay. And when it comes to nutrients, we basically need specific vitamins and minerals to produce these neurotransmitters. So if you have a child like my daughter who has a very restricted diet, then it's really important to have a look at what potentially is missing in her diet that we may want to supplement in order to achieve that really good balance of neurotransmitters. So the key nutrients involved in mood and behavior include something called tryptophan, which is found in protein. So any kind of protein, meat, fish, eggs, pulses, that's all good. And tryptophan is the precursor. It then gets converted into serotonin, which basically is needed to stabilize our mood and reduce our anxiety. We also need B vitamins, which are absolutely crucial, I would say vital actually, especially B6, B9, folate or folic acid, B12, and that basically support neurotransmitter function, and it can also help reduce anxiety. Magnesium, you may have heard of that. This is the relaxing mineral, really important for more than 600 functions in the body, including regulating nerve function, blood sugar levels, and blood pressure. And then the last one on here, there's obviously quite a few more, but these are the key ones. The next one is omega-3 fatty acid, found in fatty fish, flax seeds, walnuts, which are probably, quite often children are not really keen on eating these things, but they are crucial for brain health. And what happens with the brain? It's made of 60% of fat, and we need some of the good fat and the omega-3, and omega-3 helps our cells to remain nice and healthy so that toxins can come out of the cells and the nutrients can come inside the cells. When we are too high in omega-6, which is found in vegetable oil and processed food, that sort of things, then it affects the health of the cells, and the outer membrane becomes rigid, which means that it then locks in the toxins inside and the nutrients can't go inside. So is nutrigenomics the missing piece to help your anxious child? Now, I really truly believe that so many health conditions starts because of nutrient deficiencies. And nutrigenomics is still fairly new. I mean, it's been around for 10 years in the UK. But I really wish everyone would get a report, when they're born, because nutrigenomics is like your manual. It really shows you how your body works. And when we are working so hard at supporting and helping our children with perhaps additional needs, having this extra information about their body could be life-changing. It could be really empowering, and it gives you something to work with, right? And you can work on it bit by bit. So what is nutrigenomics? So it's basically the study of our genes, our DNA, and how it interacts with the food that we eat. That's it. We're not looking at anything else. We're only looking at nutrition. So it helps us understand how our body processes nutrients, how they're absorbed from the food that we eat, whether this happens or it doesn't happen, how we utilizes those nutrients and how we get rid of the toxins. So some people may have genes that make it harder to absorb or utilize certain vitamins and minerals. And there is a process that we look at when we look at nutrigenomics, and this process is called methylation. Now, methylation, to keep it really simple, is basically the on and off switches of your body. And these switches are needed to basically activate or deactivate processes in the body for us to just breathe and be alive and be happy. And we can study methylation in the body through a really simple saliva test. So it's really, really easy to do even with children. And this sample then helps us to analyze the genes involved in the methylation cycle. Okay, this process that we are talking about. Now, what are we looking at this? Well, basically, we're looking at genes and how the quality of them, I suppose. But the good thing about it is whatever the result is, your body is incredible. Your body is able to compensate when a gene is mutated, i.e. is not quite perfect. It is able to find these side routes to keep us alive, basically. But what's really interesting is that we can find out about these genes that are not quite, normal. And we can then support the body to work even better. And, what I say to people is, when you're in your 20s and 30s and you can do all sorts of things, right? You can go to bed really late and maybe don't eat such great food, and you still feel okay. You get up in the morning and go to work and get on with your life. But as we get older, we start, feeling that our body is slowing down a little bit. Our metabolism is slowing down. And then those particular genes that are maybe not fully switched on, they are struggling even more. So understanding how this works, as soon as you can, really, is fantastic for prevention of health conditions in the future. But in this today, I'm really talking about how to support our children and understanding, if there are genes that are not fully switched on, what can we do to help? Okay, so this is a summary of the methylation process. I know there's a lot of information on this slide. Just look at these different cycles. Okay, so we've got 5 different colored cycles that kind of feed into each other. They work like clocks. They're really, one moves, then the other one will move, and so on. They're all interconnected. And step 1 of this methylation process relies entirely on folic acid. Okay, folate is the mineral we get from food. Folic acid is a synthetic version. And some people don't absorb folic acid from a supplement because their gene is switched off. Okay, some people don't absorb it from food because their gene is switched off. Some people have both switched off. Okay, so if step 1 is not working well already, can you imagine the impact that would have on the rest of the methylation process? And can you spot where brain health is in this process? Neurotransmitter, stress hormone is right at the end. Okay, so if the top is sluggish, then of course everything else will be sluggish. And then you can see how each of these cycles relate to a particular, health area, if you like. So the first one is about DNA synthesis and repair. It's about immunity, fertility. And then the second one is more around nerve health and liver and digestion. And you can find out if you absorb B12 for energy as well. And then we move on to 2 detox pathway and then the brain health one. So today I will share some real reports with you. I will share my daughter's reports, the methylation report, and then if we have time, the nervous system one. So you can really see the kind of information you would get from a report. So why nutrigenomic matters for neurodivergent children or just anxious children? Certain nutrient deficiencies can affect your child's mood, behavior, and ability to relax. My daughter doesn't make enough of GABA, the relaxing hormone. So that explains how her sleep is being affected. And then on top of that, we also know that she doesn't make enough melatonin. So can you see this picture is starting to build? Nutrigenomic helps identify these deficiencies by looking at obviously your unique, genetic profile. And we can then support the body to produce the right amounts, of neurotransmitter, serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. And for me, my big goal with this, you know, I hear so many parents who are kind of feeling a little bit stuck because their children are perhaps struggling with school and not happy at home. And what I want to avoid with this is avoiding burnout, because obviously these children are reacting to the world in a certain way and perhaps not eating as, you know, enough food that they need to feel happy. So by looking at this nutrition in a different way, kind of turning it on its head in a way, we can really address some of these key issues to then help the child feel better in themselves. So it's not about perfect diet, and I call myself the relaxed nutritionist because I want people to really relax around food. And if we start by looking at what a child really needs to produce what they need, right? Then they may feel better in themselves to then consider food in a different way. Okay, so it's not about perfect diet, but helping your children feel better, more regulated by giving them what they need based on genetics. So now we're going to have a look at the report. So I'm going to stop sharing this for a second, but this is a tiny little sample of the nervous system report, and it shows you, you know, I mentioned tryptophan being a key ingredient, one key component to make serotonin, and then the report shows you the genes that have been studied. So these are the letters with the little dots, the colored dots, green being if your environment is pretty good, your diet, your stress levels not too high, and your environment not, you know, you're not surrounded by toxins or anything, then your genes should be working okay. If those dots are orange, it means it could do with some support, and red, it probably means that it's not working at all. But like I said, the body is able to compensate, so it doesn't mean that that's it, everything stops, but it just means that it really needs some support. And then we've got purple boxes there, which are basically cofactors, so we need some of those in order for these steps to happen. So estrogen, obviously for especially for individuals that, you know, of a certain age, let's say, not children. Vitamin D, iron, BH4 relates to B vitamins, which is at the top of this methylation cycle, zinc, magnesium, and so on. So this is just to give you a little bit of an example. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to go and find the first report. So thank you for bearing with me for a second. Okay. Let's go and find the methylation report. There we go. So if I go right to the beginning, I hope you can see that. Da, da, da. Okay. Okay. Right. So, okay. So just to make sure, this is a methylation report. This is what it looks like. And once we get this back, see, these are the cycles that I've just showed you earlier, making it a little bit more simple. But my job is then to look at this, look at, you know, the individual, you know, we are looking at, if it's your child or if it's yourself, looking at the symptoms, how they're feeling, what are their main health challenges. And then we look at the report with those challenges in mind. And we're not trying to fix every single gene. That's not the idea. The idea is to find the one or two areas that are worth focusing on, worth supporting, so that we can start addressing some of those health issues. Okay. So page 1, folate. So this is my daughter, okay? So we've got quite a few orange, and then we've got a nice big red at the bottom then. MTHFR is one of these genes that's been heavily studied. You can research it, you can Google it, MTHFR gene, and see what it tells you, but it's associated with lots of health conditions. And like I said, this is step 1 of this methylation cycle. If this is not working, then everything else is going to be slow, okay? So in this example, my daughter doesn't absorb folic acid from supplement, not hugely, it's orange, but she can absorb it from folate. Unfortunately, does she like green leafy vegetables? No. So bearing that in mind, you know, how do I support her? I give her the right form of B vitamins. Now, B vitamins work together, so it's quite rare when we supplement in isolation, as in one of those type of vitamins. Sometimes people need maybe more B12, but it's worth checking that the other Bs are not low as well. So I usually recommend a B complex, and I recommend it in a form that is methylated so that the body actually recognizes that form. So if I give folic acid to my daughter in standard supplement, her body will not recognize it and won't absorb a huge amount from it. Okay, so it's understanding the form, it's understanding the dosage, and also the interaction with the all of these different nutrients. So that's why it's important to work with a practitioner to make sure that you're doing this safely. And also the other thing worth mentioning is that you don't want to support one area really heavily and not the others, because you could end up with a bit of a bottleneck whereby the body is, you know, not ready to take on that extra energy, I suppose, for these steps to happen. So if you've got a detox pathway that's a little bit blocked, then you kind of want to unblock that first before you support the top. I hope that makes sense. Okay, next page, it's called methylation. No, it's called methionine cycle. And this, can you see all these reds? Okay, can you see all these reds and orange? So this is not great, okay? So this relates to something called production of homocysteine. Homocysteine, we need some, but we don't need too much of it. I think with my daughter, she doesn't make enough. Okay, so we need to support B12 production for sure, and then we need to support her liver a little bit, and that's also to do with detoxification. In a nutshell, that's kind of what that is. Choline is another type of B vitamins, and it's found in eggs. So really, really good source of choline is eggs. So if people eat eggs, then that's a really good start. If they don't, then I'm going to look into a supplement. And then we have the next page, which basically is called transsulfuration pathway. Essentially, this particular gene, CBS, is like a little gate, and it will allow homocysteine to leave the body. And if this one is green, which is great, so that means it's working okay. Some people it's shut, or some people it's wide open and it's too fast. So we then need to make sure that the top is working really well, and we need to slow this one down. Okay, so it's all about balance, okay, and adjusting that. And then she's got an orange here on this gene, which is all about the production of glutathione, which is an antioxidant. Now, when someone is highly stressed, they will produce lots of toxins, and they need to come out of the body, otherwise they do affect the brain and other areas. So for her, antioxidants are really important. And then we move on to the neurotransmitter. Now, this page is quite basic, and that's why I like to dive into the specific neurotransmitter or nervous system report. Okay, this is the methylation report, and then the nervous system report. I recommend both of these for children with anxiety or who are neurodivergent, because we have a really good picture of what's happening. So this is a top line, really. It shows us about vitamin D. So VDR is vitamin D receptor, which is so important for so many things. And it also shows us how this person is dealing with stress and releasing adrenaline. And my daughter has a red with arrows pointing down, which means she holds on to it. And that's why when she's stressed, she feels anxious, she feels angry, very much so. So we need to release that, okay? And Sammy relates back to the B's right at the top of the methylation cycle. And then finally, urea cycle, I tend to look into that when people have kidney issues or cardiovascular issues. Okay, so that gives you a quick overview of the methylation cycle. I am now going to find the nervous system report. Just give me 1 second. Nervous system, here it is. And this is one of my favorite, especially looking at anxiety. It's amazing. There you are. So page 1, 3 pages, serotonin, then the next one will be dopamine, and then the next one is GABA, the relaxing hormone. So this is serotonin and melatonin. And again, you can see there's quite a lot of orange, and then there's a nice big red here. So this is how I found out that my daughter doesn't produce enough melatonin, because serotonin doesn't get converted into melatonin in her body. Well, not enough. Okay, so she needs some support. We talked about tryptophan earlier. You can see hers. You know, we need to support that production of serotonin. We need those nutrients to make serotonin. Okay, and then here the HTR 1A and 2A are the receptors, and her receptors are not brilliant either, so we need to support that. Yeah, so that's, and the other thing I want to add as well is this arrow there at the top. Basically what happens is when someone is stressed, anxious, then basically whatever energy that would normally be used to produce serotonin, happy hormone, is redirected into this pathway, which I can't pronounce, and steals that energy. It's called the tryptophan steal, and the body basically decides where the energy should go. And if a person is stressed, then there's a lot of systems, or many systems, that are going to shut down, including the digestion and so on. So for her, I know this is really important to try and manage her stress as much as possible, because every time she's stressed, she's generating inflammation, and we need to that and leave the body. So hence all these detox pathways are really important. Then we have dopamine, which is very much talked about when we're talking about ADHD individuals, but actually we need both serotonin and dopamine to achieve a good level. So here you can see her MTHFR genes from the methylation cycle is right here, and then she's got quite a few orange, and then we've got this big bottleneck here where it's basically showing me that she's not releasing the adrenaline from her body. So that will have a big impact on her. So that's what we try to do, okay? It's, we're looking at, is she eating enough? Which was a big question actually, and the answer was no. So she was having meltdowns in the morning because her blood sugar was so low that she couldn't function. So we made sure that she ate more at dinner time, and then also more at snack time, the snack before, straight after school, because she wasn't eating enough at lunchtime. So we had to really make sure that, we gave her nutrients that she needs basically to feel good. And then with regards to this, we are obviously supporting her with those B vitamins from the methylation cycle, and any activities to relieve stress is going to be really helpful. Okay. And then the final one is GABA, which is the relaxing hormone. And again, she's got some interesting colors here, so which basically confirmed to me that she wasn't making enough GABA, enough of the relaxing hormone. So we need magnesium for that, we need B6, we need zinc, and then there's some lovely herbs that you can try. But the thing is with herbs is sometimes the body gets used to them, so you're going to have to try things and tweak things and maybe try something for a while and then change. And but you can reach a really good balance. And like I said, it's about giving you those tools that when something's big is coming up, you can really put all the supplements on the table and all the foods, and it's going to help them. It really is. So that's that. These are the two reports. I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to my slide. I hope this makes sense. Of course, if you're watching this now or later, just feel free to send me a message if you've got any questions. I know it's quite technical, and if you're seeing this for the first time, then feel free to go back and have another look. And that's also another thing I want to say about these reports. It's not about fixing everything at once, okay? It's about understanding the priorities in the body and working out, okay, we're going to try this one thing first, see if that works, see if it makes any difference. Then you can tweak it, and then you can add something else. And that's what I've done with our daughter. It's just over the years, as I've been working on this for years now, there are times where I know exactly what she needs. there are times where I need to go back to the report and remind myself of what she needs. So that's how I would work with it. It's a long-term game, this, okay? So it's a bit of an investment, but for me, it's the best investment I've ever made to allow us to have what I called, my normal life. Okay, it's not everyone's normal, but we go on holiday, we can go out, we can do things. There's things that she doesn't want to do, that's fine. And there's lots of things she doesn't want to do, but we have achieved a nice balance where we're all happy. Okay, I think that's what I want to share today, is that's what you can achieve. Okay, but it takes time. It takes time, and having someone to help you is definitely a good idea, because it is quite complex. So what did we do to get to this nice and calm place where we are now? So we've addressed her blood sugar balance, because that was a really big problem. Carbohydrates, will give you a big high, but it does give you a big drop afterwards. So balancing that blood sugar with some kind of fat, healthy fat, if at all possible, and some fiber, if at all possible. So food combining could be quite nice. Cortisol balance, that stress management. So she likes fruit. She doesn't like vegetables, but she likes fruit. So we really vary those fruit to give her lots of vitamin C and basically lots of antioxidants that I've mentioned, right? To grab these toxins and get them out of the body. And then to get these things out of the body, we need to focus on the gut. So any gut issues would be addressed. That's a priority. If someone comes to me with constipation, for example, for a child, that's the first thing we work on. There's no point in adding all these goodness if the body is storing everything, including toxins. We want that out of the body. So gut balance, if needed, we can do stool tests and things like that, but you can do lots of things before going down the testing route. And then once you've done this and you feel that you've tried quite a few things, but there are still some big emotions going on, meltdowns potentially, but you can feel that your child is still very, very anxious and there's this, can't seem to get to that calm point. Looking at Nutrigenomics is definitely going to give you some, pointers, additional information to work with. So I work with a family, I've worked with many families, but this particular one, it was really interesting because the son was eating, he was eating pretty well. In fact, that's the first thing I said to the mum. I said, you know what, your son eats well, so you don't have to stress over that. And she kind of went, really? I went, absolutely. He's got a pretty varied diet. Yes, he doesn't eat a lot, but he eats all these different foods. And in my eyes, you're doing great. And the relief was incredible, really incredible. So we did the genetic test still because there was some issues with autistic. So he had some challenges that we wanted to address and help him so that he could go to school and feel good in himself. And so we did a genetic test, and we only did, a couple of tweaks. But this is what this mum said, it really is so amazing. And we can't thank you enough. The change in our family life is immeasurable. Basically, they discovered that, the son's receptors for certain vitamins and minerals were not working as well as they should, like I've highlighted in the report. And then what she said, when your child struggles to take lots of generic vitamin tablets, this sort of information is a real game changer, because you can just focus on the one or two things that are going to make the biggest difference. And quality is very important here. So how do we do the genetic test? Is really simple. Like I said, it's a saliva test. So it's a little swab in the mouth, and you send that off to the lab. Then I order the reports for you. So we have methylation, we have nervous system, we've got hormone reports if you've got PMS type symptoms or hormonal issues. We've got a thyroid one, we've got one around weight management, and so on. So this lab called LifeCode GX, they are the one handling all this information. They only keep your data for a few months and then it's deleted. Okay, it's not stored anywhere. And then when I get the results, I basically, look at symptoms and the report and produce a plan tailored for you or your child. And so, yep, suitable for absolutely everybody from a day old to, 100 years old, if someone wants to find out. But a good thing is you keep this report for the rest of your life because it will not change, all right? It will be the same whether you do it when you're 2 years old or when you're 50. It is your manual. This is how your body functions, and that doesn't change in itself. You can influence those genes. That's the beauty of nutrition. You can influence these genes, but they won't change as such. But you can really influence the results. You can influence how you feel. So that's that really. I do offer different packages. You can order one report, and that's one package. You can order two, and there's some benefits of doing that. I will share the link with you. How it works is you pay your deposits to order the DNA kit, and then you pay the rest, 3 weeks later when we get the report back. And yeah, a few changes, and I mean tiny changes, can really, really lead to positive results in both behavior and overall well-being. And that's what I'm all about. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much.